We are honored that you could join us. That's the favorite part of that intro. I see a lot of the comments wrestling, and I'd love to have some wrestling intros. You know, the thing about Facebook is they're very critical when it comes to copyright violations. I don't know if you guys remember, there was a period I was doing morning videos with some local music, some music videos that I would pull off of YouTube. And what was happening is because I don't have the rights to those music and those videos, they either yank the video or they, of course, I always get the caution, the message from Facebook that they're going to cancel my account. But they'll mute it. They'll mute mute the sound. So that's why I stopped doing those morning videos because obviously I don't have the rights to the music. So, but I'd love to have a Randy Orton intro, a Stone Cold intro, the Rocks intro. I got to figure out a way to do it without getting banned from Facebook. But anyway, aloha everybody, welcome. Aloha Friday. Hope you guys had a great week. It's been a long week. It's been an interesting week. A lot of things going on, and we will talk about COVID tonight because I think there's some developments with the new variants that are of concern. We are going to have doctors back on Wednesday when the new numbers come out. You know, the numbers look quite appealing here in Hawaii. The numbers are going down, but we got to be very cognizant of what's happening across the country in other parts of the world with these new variants. So I'll have a couple of slides for that. Definitely not an expert, definitely not a doctor, but we'll look up some of the new data that has been coming out, the new information. Did want to talk a little bit about tourism. We have Dustin Moises will be joining us. He's always a fun guest to have because we really don't know what the heck's going to happen, but he'll be jumping on in a little bit. And then I've been getting a lot of inquiries regarding the drug treatment center. We did a show on Wednesday night to highlight what was happening with the drug treatment center here on Kauai. And then the article came out yesterday, I guess it was, and I probably got about 12, maybe a dozen or so inquiries from people that saw the show, saw the article, and had a lot of questions. So we'll touch a little bit about that. I'm Dustin. I'm sorry, Tyson. Why did I say Dustin? Oh my gosh. What the F? Sorry, Tyson. I don't know what the heck I'm thinking. I saw your brother last night, actually. That's probably why. You know, that's what happens when you get old. That's what happens when you go and you get so much crapola in your head. This head is so full of stuff you wouldn't believe. Sometimes it's just so I beg for your forgiveness, my friend. I beg for your forgiveness. I actually did run into your brother last night. We had a fun chat, and you guys are cool dudes, man. Cool dudes. So I appreciate you jumping on. Actually, let's bring him in. Oh, he just took off his video. Let's bring him in. Let's bring him in and see Tyson, Dr. Tyson Moises. Thank you, Doc, for joining us tonight. uh, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How's it, buddy? How you doing, man?
Well, apparently not too good, right? I screw up on the guest's first name. It's just kind of horrific, actually.
Hey,
But it is Friday.
it's all good. You gave him a compliment by confusing him for me, so
Yeah, I don't know if he watches the show. I think he does. It's funny how on this show when we first started off. I mean, I can remember the live viewers would would be in the 900, 1200, and now we barely make 100 at times. But when you look at the views the next day, it's over 1,000. It's funny how people. I guess everybody's busy. Um, and frankly, I think some people are just tired of hearing about COVID. So we try to wean ourselves off, but still keep the focus at least on Wednesdays, so we can keep our villagers abreast of what's going on because there is absolutely no talk, right? Tyson, there is absolutely no talk anymore. The Wednesday reports comes out. Um, there's a little bit of media coverage, and then that's it. And it's not on the forefront like it used to be. And but we appreciate the viewers that come on live, and we appreciate those that join us after the fact. We really do because we think that it's important that the people get kept abreast of what's going on. But like I said, tonight I screwed up. You guys all know Kimberly Hope. She's the violinist, an amazing violinist that I told you guys last week that she would be on tonight. Uh, we have her down for next week, but again, this brain, she kind of messed up. So I had put up the promo flyer for tonight, and she messaged me and said, "Oh my God, I thought it was for next week." And I looked, and sure enough, it was. So she'll be on next week Friday, and that's one you don't want to miss because she's awesome and she's got an amazing story, as does Dr. Tyson Moises.
If you can see me smiling, because people gonna look at this later and be like, "What the hell? Tyson's a doctor?" I stayed at
Yeah,
Holiday
yeah,
Inn Express once.
yeah. But that's cool, man. I think I honestly probably have you treat me for some ailments,
Mm.
not all, but I think I would definitely trust your judgment in some of the minor ailments of life. But definitely no surgeries with you, my friend.
Oh, hell
Definitely.
to the no.
Yeah, so we talk a little about, most of you know Tyson. Tyson, local boy, played some college baseball. Amazing guy, and he just a wealth of information and knowledge. But he's also in the visitor industry. He's been there for a while. School teacher by trade, but I did want to pick his brain tonight a little bit. Has no idea what the heck we're going to talk about, but we'll pick his brain about. He works at the Grand Hyatt, and he's been there for a long time, so quite a bit of info that on how that is going, how working at the hotel and with the numbers, climbing from other places. It's interesting that across the country, and I'll show a slide later with some numbers, but this new variants are creating an issue in many other states. And you know the trend; it doesn't change. Yeah, the variants change, but the trends don't, and it makes its way from across the ocean. It gets to the East Coast, to the mid coast, the Midwest, Mid East. Then it gets to the West Coast, and then it gets to Hawaii. So we should be paying attention to those trends. And I think Dr. Lee Altenberg, Dr. Tim Brown have been cautioning our leaders for quite a while. But I think we all can agree that the state has kind of conceded and just said, let's just go. Look, Raylene Malama says she got her PhD from the show. Yeah, I think for everyone that has followed us, I think we definitely have had the blessing of good factual data and information from our guests, and we take no credit for the information we provide. It's just these wonderful experts that are willing to share their knowledge to our village. So yeah, we appreciate them. So how's life been going for you, Tyson? How's it all going, man?
It's good, man. Unfortunately, I actually haven't been at the Hyatt for the last month because Tyson decided to tear his third ligament, so he gets to rehab and PT. But I was just down there this morning, so I always talk with our crew all the time, so I still know what's going on down there.
Wow, a third ligament? Is that what you said?
Yes, sir. Third time is definitely not the charm.
Oh, I see. So this is the third time that you injured the same ligament? Is that what you're saying?
No, no, no. So the first one was, in my younger years. In '05, I tore my right side MCL, so that was fun times. Yeah, down good rehab. In 2009, tore my ACL. Not so fun. Had
Jeez.
to get surgery on down and get it repaired. But then this one that I just had last month, same left side on the knee, but it's a minor meniscus tear. So rehab and exercises, and I should be okay. I've never walked normal, so I don't think I'll ever walk normal again.
There is no such thing as a minor meniscus tear. A tear is not, maybe by your standard, you athletes, right? You guys can
Mm.
still function with a little bit of therapy. But for me, man, when something tears, it's not minor anymore, man. But I wish you the best in your recovery. I wish you
Hey,
the best.
me too. I'm 43. My body's going on 74. So,
Yeah,
although my physical therapist said I got flexibility like a 80-year-old, so I guess I'm older than I thought.
hey, well, and it'll get better. It'll get better as the therapy continues. That's like it's the hardest thing, therapy, man. Physical
Mm.
therapy, it's like, ouch. I don't know how these professional athletes, they break something, they tear something, they go, they get the best doctors, the best therapists, and within months they're back on the field. I just don't know how they do it, man. And playing at that same level, Uh, incredible, incredible.
No, it's insane, man. I'm glad I had all my injuries after my playing days, because to try and come back and play, and I don't know, that's a lot of mental fortitude you gotta have.
Yeah. Well, when you're getting paid, $100 million over a 10-year contract, the fortitude becomes easier.
True
It
story.
becomes easier. That's how it is. So anyway, we're about the 7 o'clock hour. Money, yeah. See, Maynard got it right. It's the money, yeah. Well, it's still, it is what it is. But I'm glad I didn't tear any meniscuses or MCLs or ACLs. I broke a few bones and had a few surgeries, but it's all good. All good. So yeah,
Yep.
let's talk a little bit about what's going on, and I'll put up a few slides. I'm just gonna put this one up right here. This is from today, USA Today. Coronavirus cases are rising in the U.S. again. I mean, I think that's no secret. 18 states. This is from today in the USA Today. 18 states reported more cases in the week of June 30th to July 7th than in the week before. And this is according to the analysis by Johns Hopkins University. So, pretty credible. That has also led to a rise in hospitalizations, with hospitals in 40 states reporting more COVID 19 patients in the hospitals now than a week earlier. 38 states had more patients in intensive care, and 17 states reported more deaths than a week earlier. This is kind of scary stuff, people. Although the increase in cases doesn't appear to approach the meteoric levels of previous waves, health experts say what's being recorded is likely an undercount because of the underreported test results. I mean, I think that goes without saying. We've known that for quite a while. Um, that thing is in my way. It says globally, countries continue to battle new surges, with cases in Romania nearly doubling over the last week across. And my stupid thing on the screen. Anyway, in China, officials have closed schools and businesses in the Shaanxi province of Xi'an, population about 13 million, for a week after a cluster of cases were detected. Also, cases are rising in Anhui province. This is all in China, following a cluster of cases linked to a karaoke bar. I wonder why. In other global developments, virologists are closely watching another Omicron variant called BA 2.75 that appears to be competing with the BA 5 in India. So far, BA 2.75 hasn't been designated as a variant of interest or a variant of concern. Ulrich Elling with Australia's Institute of Molecular Biotechnology said on Twitter that there are a few confirmed cases from sequence samples. Most are in India, but the virus has already been found in Australia, Canada, Germany, New Zealand, and the UK. He said that it's too soon to know if BA 2.75 will take over from the BA2 or make headway on BA5, but he raised concern about immune escape based on the mutations. And I'll just put up the last one here because I think it covers it. Even as BA4 and BA5 continue to climb the charts, crowding out earlier Omicron subvariants, scientists are warning about an even newer strain, the 2.75. Dr. Peacock, a virologist, said on June 30th, worth keeping a close eye on BA 2.75. Lots of spike mutations, probable second generation variant, which means now this is a variant of the variant. It's like the baby of the BA4 and BA5. Apparent rapid growth and wide geographical spread. And this is what is scary here. It's a quickly spreading variant with a host of spike mutations appearing together. So it's not, it's a complex mutation going on. But scientists say it's still too soon to know for certain exactly how much better, if at all, BA 2.75 is at escaping natural and vaccine-induced immunity. I think we've learned from Dr. Altenberg and Brown that has always been the concern with these variants because of the immune escape. You know, lots of people have had COVID, including our guest tonight, Tyson, and maybe he can share a little about his experience with COVID. Lots of people have gotten vaccinated. Lots of people have gotten boosted, but there's still a lot of people that haven't been boosted. There's still a lot of people that haven't caught COVID. But even with those that have produced some sort of immunity from either natural infection or vaccines and boosters, we don't know how well this new variants will take or impact the immunity of these conditions. So, I guess my point is, I got accused the other day, or someone called me and said that someone said, "How dare you watch that show? They're fear mongers. You know,
Yeah.
they spread fear." And I said, "Well, call it what you want. You have the option to watch or not. But the information is important. You, as Charlie always said, you do what you want with the info. But I think it's important that we know what's happening elsewhere so we can better prepare ourselves and make sure we understand that there is a risk and we need to be careful." So, Tyson, I know you
True.
follow this stuff a lot. I mean, you're a very analytical guy. But what's your take, man? And maybe you want to share a little bit about your experience with COVID.
Okay, I can start there. With me, it was because I'm fully boosted and whatnot and all of that, uh, and I know I caught it at work, right? It was a month or so after we got rid of our mask mandates or mandatory mask mandates, which I should also mention. The good thing is still a lot of people still wear their masks if need be. Basically, especially on Kauai, right? At the Hyatt right now, it's like pre-COVID action. People come and go like they should and they can. Not so many people wearing masks. Our employees, we got a bunch of wearing, but when I caught it, I I tested positive on a Thursday night, late Thursday night. I already knew on Wednesday if I tested positive. I mean, if I tested, I would have been positive. And my symptoms wasn't anything major. I had a headache that was kind of nagging me. But to be honest, from working out in the sun and all of that, I get a headache from time to time. But normally, it either goes away, take some medicine, goes away. But this one from Wednesday afternoon, little headache, throat got a little dry, and I was like, oh, okay. But I was thinking, that week too, we had a little bit of rain. This was back in May, right before graduation. A little bit of rain. So, I had night shifts and day shifts. So, the change of temperature, different type elements. Nothing that changed in the past. I got some of that before. So I think, okay, nothing. Thursday, actually, went out to watch my daughter's softball game, but we don't really sit near people anyway in the back. But, little dry throat, take some halls. I was like, oh, this thing's just not really kind of going away. So when I came home, uh, I took my temperature and it was at a little over 100. But hello, Portuguese, I just power shower too, huh? So I take my temperature. Let me wait about maybe 20 minutes, half an hour. Uh, Took temperature, still is a little past 100. I should also say my normal temperature is high in general. Like, the 98.6 is not me. I'm 99.2, 99. I'm always high, just body heat. That's why I kind of like cool weather. It's easier for me to uh, warm up than it is cool down. So I kind of like it cool. Then I was like, okay, not going away. I took a little bit of medication, just, over the counter stuff. And at about maybe 10 o'clock, I took my temperature again. I was still, like 100.6, something like that. So I was like, what, shoot. I got all these home tests. Let me just test it. And I'm not gonna lie, I was hesitant in the sense I was like, graduation the next day. My niece was graduating. I was like, oh, if I test positive, I can't go. But then in the back of my head, I was like, what a jackass hypocrite I'll be because I keep telling people, hey, if you sick, especially coming to work, just test. You're not gonna know until you test. So of course I test, and as if you guys take the home test, which I'm sure a lot of people have, as soon as you put the drops in there, I'm watching it go across, and before it finishes up, the second line came up, and I was positive. Like, son of a gun, so I knew it. So, and my three symptoms, I only had three symptoms: the headache, elevated temperature, and a dry throat. So it wasn't that bad. I stayed out of work for a week. Uh, I just took over the counter stuff. Nothing I didn't need. I know you talked to me about seeking the other treatment remedies, but my doctor said unless something got bad or worse, I could probably just rest at home, especially since I was boosted and whatnot, which I did. Temperature, I had the temperature for about maybe 2 days. The dry throat lasted longer than anything else, but after about 6, 7 days, I was fine. But we continued taking, and I say we now because 4 or 5 days later, my son tested positive. Of course, he got it from me. Could have been from school, but no, he got it from me, even though I avoided everyone That's the that's how this variance and all this, right? So transmissible, that contagious. You can just catch it. But what he and I did, I took over the counter medicine for 2 straight weeks just because, right? Just go. And after 2 weeks, I was completely fine. So it's, you know, uh, uh, I know people who are completely unvaccinated, people who are boosted who had absolutely no effects when they caught it, then vice versa. Some that, boosted and or unvaccinated that got it terrible. In fact, a buddy of mine uh, who just came back from New York from his dad's, you know, funeral services, he came back. He avoided close contacts from his own family the last couple months, but came back from New York and he got in. He said he just felt like crap for like 3 days. So his one was bad. And same thing, the guy who was boosted. So I understand how that goes, but that was the interesting thing previously, right? You had Omicron, you get all these other variants coming on, the BA2s and whatnot. Now we're getting to all these other variants. And even though you're hearing a lot of reports, studies that saying the symptoms may be less or minimal compared to what it was before, but the contagiousness is just shooting up. If you get a lot more people that have the virus, chances are others will get it. Hospitalizations may go up, or that chance that 2 or 3 people get them real bad, it's going to hurt. So it's going to be interesting, like any other virus or anything else, how it mutates throughout everything. It's it's going to be what it is, right? We're not going to really know how this thing is going to affect all of us, shoots probably for years. And with the human element of everyone is built differently, when those variants come around and we start mutating things, I don't know what it is. Now that everybody in my family except for my wife has it, when my daughter got it back in January, my curious thing wasn't the now. It's okay, 2, 3 years from now, is there any long COVID type effects and whatnot? But there's nobody can tell you exactly what's going on right now in 3 years. So we're going to kind of see. I always I'm happy when people who contract the virus can stay at home and recover, right? That's the whole purpose. Most people chose to get uh the booster shot or whatever it was, just so you can rest at home. You don't gotta have the threat of being sent to the hospital, right?
Yeah, I remember when you let me know that you had COVID, and I did. Call your doctor, go get the Paxlovid, because that's kind of the best thing. And like you, among a lot of other people that had called me and I recommended, were not given the prescription, which we talk about quite often on our show. Um, and some people that immunocompromised, the elderly, they'll get it, but the problem with this virus and these variants is, like you said, Tyson, we don't know. Uh, you could be mildly symptomatic for 3 4 days, and then on the fifth day you get really really sick. And to me, I think a lot of the experts are saying these doctors should be able to prescribe Paxlovid. I think I read somewhere now pharmacies are going to be able to prescribe Paxlovid. But the requirements, or the requirements for our people with COVID to get it in some cases are very strict, and it makes no sense. But you hit the nail on the head. More cases equal more hospitalizations equals more death. So while our state is bragging about the case counts coming down, they don't mention about the testing rates are going down. So there is a direct correlation between the amount of tests that you give and the amount of positives that you get. I mean, a third grader can figure that out, but they don't focus on that, right? They love telling the public that the cases are coming down, even if the deaths are going up. We had 20 last week. 20 people
20.
died
Yeah.
last week. 20. Now, 20 people died. 20 families were devastated. I cannot tell you how many individual people, how many kids, grandkids, aunties, sisters, brothers, uncles. But they say it like it's acceptable. Yeah, our case counts are coming down, positivity rate coming down, but we had 20 deaths. And it seems like the minimizing is still there. All of these reports coming from other countries and from other states. There's and who knows what they talk about. They're all excited because they passed a law that now we're going to have a brand new department for the director or the state corrections. They're all excited. They all show up at the Capitol and clap when they sign that bill. They do all of these things, and yet we have this pandemic that is still is far from over. But no talk about that. You get the Wednesday report and that's it, and maybe some spillover on Thursday.
Hey,
And
Mel, a quick one.
go ahead.
You know what our numbers remind me of today whenever they report? Back when this first started back in 2020, remember, oh, we got 0 cases. We got nothing here. And what was the whole reason for that? Because we just weren't testing, right? That's when,
Yeah,
back then, we're not going to test, when we bring it down Dr. T. Oh, no, we can't test. So, of course, obviously, if you're not testing, you ain't going to get positive cases. Then when we started testing, what happened? Cases went up because you test, you can get positive. So now, if you notice, a lot of our numbers that they like talking highly about is we just don't test as much, especially since majority are testing at home, which don't get reported. So the numbers now just reminds me of when we first started. Like they throw out a number, okay, whatever. Like I said, the sad number whenever they put it out is deaths, because that's a number you can't fake or falsify. It's an unfortunate true stat.
yeah. You cannot, and of course, the those people out there will tell you did they die of COVID or with COVID, or all these different things to try to minimize the impacts. I don't know because I don't know any of the 20 people that recently passed away, but I will tell you this, and this is obviously not a scientific study, but every person that I personally knew, either a family member or a friend, and I believe it's up to 8 now, maybe 9, I can't remember. Every single one of them died from COVID. They didn't have a urinary tract infection and died of a urinary tract infection and just happened to have COVID. Every single person that I personally knew, and my dad is on here, and he lost his wife, and she didn't die from anything else but COVID. If not for COVID, everyone that I know would be alive today. So that bothers me when people try to write it off as they died with COVID. Because you know why? Because people like Dr. Josh Green, I can't know why I call him doctor, comes out and says, just remember, you got to keep in mind that many of those people were incidental. Yeah, they came into the hospital for something else and got tested and they found out they were positive. What an irresponsible thing to say, right? That's irresponsible to come out and tell people, oh no, don't believe the numbers of hospitalizations because someone may have come in from a traffic accident and we tested them and they were positive. He knows that's not the case. Go talk to the families of the ones that died. But that's what they have been doing. They've been doing this for over a year and a half now, constantly trying to convince the people that people aren't dying of COVID, they're dying from something else, they had COVID. I mean, come on, guys. So with this information that we're getting coming from outside sources like Johns Hopkins, right? Are they part of the conspiracy? I mean, these guys, I like when people say, I don't like, but I think it's funny when people say, oh, yeah, it's going to get worse because it's an election year. It's getting close to the election. Like, you telling me that China, Australia, Romania, UK, Korea, United States, all of these countries, some of them enemy countries, sit around a table and conspire to fake this pandemic so some knucklehead can get elected to public office. I mean, do you really believe that? I mean,
Come on,
it's
this virus is real smart, right? Remember, it can discriminate against certain people, ages, and all of that, tourists and resident, right? So I'm sure it's going to only certain countries.
yeah, you get a cluster out of a karaoke bar, but you're not going to get one out of an airplane or at an airport. I went drive past the airport yesterday, Tyson, Lihui Airport. Me and my good buddy Joe Adric, my partner. It's a zoo. It is a what do they call a super spreader? no doubt in my mind, there are people shoulder to shoulder, face to face, maybe 5% of the people, if that, are wearing a mask. And it's just happening every day, different times of the day. And but that's okay, right? No, that's okay. Because you're right, this virus knows we're not going to mess with tourists because we don't want to impact the travel industry. We don't want to upset Delta Airlines and all these other airlines. So we're going to select our victims. If they're at an airport, if they're in an airplane, we're not going to touch them. That's how
Mhm.
smart this virus is. And you mentioned your friend, yeah, in New York. I can tell you, I don't know, half a dozen of my friends that have come back from Las Vegas recently, all got COVID, and they got COVID after they got back home. One of my good friends, and he posted it on Facebook. He made no secret of it. He got COVID in Vegas. He had to extend his trip because he got COVID in Vegas. So no one, you cannot tell me. And I don't care what expert. You cannot tell me that this virus isn't spreading through the airplanes, especially now when no one's wearing a mask in the airplanes. They're not wearing a mask in the airports. So how can you say that that is safe? It's crazy. It's nonsense. It's nonsense.
No, it is, because like the one I was talking about, my friend, he told me about more than a handful of people who attended the services all tested positive. So yeah, he was up there in New York, like places like LAX, who now it's mandated right at the airport to wear a mask. So when you walk through, kind of amazing that everybody's wearing a mask through there. And then depending on the plane that you jump on, you may not need it, and some people may not be using it either, right? But it was interesting that why we couldn't do it with our airports. You can still, yeah, at our airports, wear your mask when you get in. I'll be honest, if you're outside, you got that air going through. It's like us at the Hyatt. If I'm out on the front drive, I'm not that worried. If I'm in my employee hallways where there's no air and you got 50 people all walking together, that's a pretty good indication as why we get spread amongst departments just like any other business, right? Because you're just close to each other, people coughing, sneezing, touching the time clock and all of that. Dude, I've never been a germaphobe, but with all of this hand sanitizer touch. But the problem is with our time clocks too. If you put sanitizer, we got a finger scan and all that. Freaking thing doesn't pick up my damn fingerprint. I gotta wipe and go. So I always tell them, sorry guys, I put sanitizer. So what I can do now is tag and then I wipe them down. But it's yeah, it's just how
You
it
know,
is right now.
Tyson, you said something that is so true. You're outdoors, right? You're outdoors. You're not around people that you don't know, and you know that's perfectly fine. You're not gonna get COVID. It's just like, but when you are going into a store or a restaurant, or because we can still survive with this thing, we can live. We actually can live it. And Dr. Tim Brown, I remember when he was on Spotlight, he said, living with COVID doesn't mean ignoring its existence and ignoring the dangers. But yeah, listen, man, you always get your mask, right? You're going to go in somewhere that you may not, you don't know if you're going to run into somebody that is going to come up to you. Wear your mask. Just how inconvenient is it to wear a mask? And that's what bugs me about airplanes. And I had, even going to Honolulu, even if it's only a 20-minute flight, I worry about that. Everybody's in that little capsule, and people. What's really interesting? When I flew to the mainland, um, when my stepmother passed away, and they were, and even when for my daughters, when my daughter got sick, when masks were mandatory, you didn't hear people sneezing and coughing, and you know, and I was listening for it. You freak out when you hear somebody cough. Every so often you might hear somebody cough or sneeze, but it seems like now when the masks are optional, and when I had to go to Honolulu last month, it's like I can hear 3 or 4 different people coughing and sneezing, and I'm freaking out. That's the 20-minute flight, and they don't know. I mean, these guys are getting on a plane knowing that they're sick, There's people that are going on a plane that have tested positive, but because there's no checks and balances anymore, they're getting on a plane positive, contagious, and going on a 5, 6, 7 hour flight back to the mainland and spreading the germ. And I don't get it. I don't understand how people can be so selfish, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, that's the thing too, right? Because that's the same thing I think. But and I I think it's very rare that someone is going to go out in public knowing that they got the virus, right? So the, the concern is always you got people walking around that have no idea they might have it, and they might be the ones just mistakenly nose gets itchy, sneeze, but instead of sneezing to their arm or something like that, that's when they give that one sneeze, and you might be walking by. That's why we do what we do best to protect ourselves. So yeah, I don't think the human way is let me go be a jackass, positive, and go spread it out to everyone. It's that unfortunate, yeah, I feel perfectly fine, but I may have been exposed, and now unknowingly we're walking around. So that's why, even at work, what I try and do is uh, I figure whatever wind direction we got, and I stay upwind. So
Mhm.
if anything happens, they can go down. So, I just try and avoid. See, and even doing all that type of stuff back in May, I still end up catching it. So,
Yeah, I mean, again, you and but and I know a lot of people try to figure out where they think they got it, right? And with COVID, like you said, it could be something as simple as a time clock. It could be something as simple as a doorknob. We just don't know. It's very hard unless there's a cluster, unless there's a like a funeral or a wedding or a restaurant that a bunch of people caught it or tested positive shortly after. You can kind of say that that's where you got it. But like even for you, Tyson, I mean, you work at a hotel, you come across it. There's a lot of people. I mean, employees as well as guests. It's very hard to pinpoint where you actually got infected. Yeah, it is very hard. And to your point about the people going out purposely in the public, I know that there are people that, and I'm talking mostly about travelers, and it could be visitors or it could be residents. My good friend that I spoke about, he tested positive. He did the right thing. Yeah, because he was able to stay longer in Vegas and isolate in his hotel room until he could test out negative and be free of the virus. But there are many people that don't have that luxury. They've booked their flight, they've paid, they made the reservations, and they need to be back home or they need to be back wherever they need to go. And they are going to fly because they can't afford to stay another 10 days or 5 days. Uh, and those are the ones that I think, it's we know it happens. We know it happens. And I know, how I know, because they come at the airport when we still had the testing, and they would get their results, and they were sick, and they got on that plane. And that's the frustration, I guess. If everybody was responsible, if everybody was compassionate, and if everyone cared about each other like they did when we were at the height of the original, when people were dying every day, a lot of people, we would be able to control this virus. But I think a lot of people, Tyson, have just said, if I get it, I get it. I know one guy, we had a little discussion one night and said on the chat, and the guy said his doctor told him that just it's best that he just get COVID. And I told him, I'd like to know who that doctor is, because I don't know of any medical expert that would tell any patient, I suggest you go out and go get COVID. Like, remember when we was young, Tyson? And I don't know, for you, you're much younger than I, but when one of the family members, one of the kids got chicken
chicken
pox,
pox.
everybody would
Yep.
take their kids over to that house so they could all get chicken pox. That sounds inhumane, but that's what we did. Well, chicken pox and COVID are two different things. And why would you want to go infect yourself with a virus that could potentially kill you? I can't
Yeah.
imagine.
The thing about chicken pox is you actually recover from chicken pox.
Yeah, yeah,
you know,
yeah. You may end up with a scar
I was
because
just gonna say you might get some
that
scars,
long.
or as my mom would attest to this when I had them. I forget. I think it was like second grade or third grade. But hello, she had to leave us at home. We're all young. So when she was in the bank, I think it was LA, First One Bank back then. And this is why they make fun of Portuguese, right? I I see, you know how you get all the flips and all that. You know the car lighter. I go stick them in when the thing heat up, burn myself with the thing. I'm like, holy moly! I was like, I think of the stupid things I did when I was young, but
We know when we was young, we wasn't rich, right? We never had toys. Well, I didn't, so that was a toy. You know that cigarette lighter in a car you put in, the one you talk about? Yeah, we played with that thing because it was so cool. 'Cause we couldn't afford the toys, you know. Oh my God, I don't think that's just because we Portuguese. I think that's just because we was poor. you know,
that
I don't.
too.
Yeah, but yeah. So, Tyson, how is it? You guys hotel? I'm sure it's capacity. I'm sure you guys, are pretty much getting close to normal. How how is it like working at the hotel? I know you're off right now because of your injury, but how was it as you as they lifted the mask mandates, as they lifted all the travel restrictions and testing, and what did you observe?
The crazy thing, it was what we saw were, so we had guests who, traveled here multiple times during the mandates and all this. The overwhelming thing I saw is relief from guests. Because now, they came from states that didn't have any of this. So now when they came here, they felt as if it gave them that sense of normalcy again as they're coming back in. And, for us, we were kind of guarded at the get go. Okay, all these guys coming in don't got a test. Everybody looks what states are hot spots. And then honestly, a lot of employees, myself included, I'm not gonna lie, you relaxed a little more, right? Where people talking to you, you may have gotten a little bit closer than you did 5, 6 months ago. Like I said, once again, we're still outside, but you kind of got to that sense. Okay, you know what? We're kind of going, especially since we're first land, right? Majority, our group season is normally January to March. With all the postponements from 2020 to 2021 to 2022, now we still got groups. You know, the place was just busy. So, especially for us out on the front drive, there's a lot of movement. So it was good in the sense that we weren't just standing around in a crowd of people waiting for their cars or for a bus or, whatever rideshare taxi. So there, but we've basically been busy the month after we opened up. We opened up April of 2021. Since May, we've basically been 70% and above. So it's like I said, it's been good for us, right? Majority of us were out 9 to 12 months not working. It was nice to get back to work and be making money again. Uh, but with what's happening, especially up until last month when I started being out, it was literally business as normal, with the exceptions. Remember, we had that little spike again, and then I think I even texted you. I said, "Hey, I think we're implementing a indoor mask mandate again." It was only going to be for employees, though, right? Protect ourselves, and would recommend to guests if they're indoors use it. And then the mandate was just a high recommendation. But majority of our employees, which is nice, they use masks, especially the ones that either contracted the virus or they had family members or friends that got it. Because the crappy thing is, especially if you're unvaccinated or you weren't boosted in time of your second shot, you're a close contact. Stay home for 5 days. You're not getting paid, and all these type of things. So a lot of people, they just didn't want to become a close contact. But currently, right now, I was just talking with the hitman Fernandez again, and he said it's busy, man. He said it's pre-COVID action. People move around. Business is nice. So from that standpoint, it's good for us economically. What might be the short-term effects? Shoots, we're gonna see.
Yeah, I know it was tough for a lot of people. I know you folks suffered a lot as hotel employees across the state during the peaks, and I will say though, Tyson, you never put um, your yourself in front of the health and safety. I mean, I remember having discussions back 2 years, a year and a half ago, and you were always cognizant of the dangers and weren't yelling and screaming about I want to go back to work, I want to go back to work at the expense of people getting sick. I mean, everybody wanted to go back to work. Don't get me wrong, but you were always concerned about health and safety. I appreciate that. I appreciate people that would put others' health and safety in front of themselves. So thank you for that, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, it's like we said, right? We're the ones that live here. Anybody can come visit anytime they want. So honestly, there's no rush. We needed people back. Let's get things under control. So yeah, the ones that live here can sustain it, but it's we knew eventually we would go. I'm just glad it wasn't 3 years before we started things up again. But it was
Yeah,
we could survive.
yeah. I think as this thing, we don't know. I mean, I just again I read a thing. I think it was in a Star Advertiser. I don't even know who said it, but unless there's another, this is what gets me about our state. Unless we see another variant, a bad variant come up, we can safely say that the pandemic is behind us. Well, first of all, we know that there's variants out there. We know that there's variants that has not made it here yet, the 2.75. Why would you make a statement like that? Again, making people think that the worst is over. We hope it is. And if it stays like this, if these variants are doing the same things that the BA4 and I mean the BA2 and the BA1, we can pretty much live with this thing if we're responsible. But we don't know. We don't know what these next variants are until it's here. I'm not in favor of locking down anything. I think when we locked down, it was because we had to. We just too many people were getting sick and dying. But a lockdown, can be more devastating if it's not needed. But other safety protocols like the mask mandate, I think uh, the state has to be ready to reinstate if we start to see our hospitals. We have hospital people on our show right now watching, and they listen to people leaders talk about the hospitals are managing the the patients and the numbers. That's not true. I mean, if you talk to the people that are working in the hospitals right now, they will tell you staffing shortages, bed shortages is a real crisis. It's a real problem. But no one talks about it publicly because we don't want to scare people. But I think people need to know the truth, and they will make the right decisions regardless. If for them, they're going to make the right decisions for them. But without the right information, without knowing all the facts, you know people can end up making a bad decision, and that's all I'm trying to say. The hospital situation. In fact, Hilton Dole or whatever his name is, the guy from whatever that Hawaii hospital, whatever.
Yeah.
He was on the news. Yeah, he was on the news the other night, PBS, or he was one interview he was having, and he was sharing his concern about this new variants coming in. But because he's saying that, you don't see him on the 6 o'clock news or on the news anymore. Because yeah, Hilton Rathel. Thanks, George. When he was at the governor's side, when the governor lifted all the safety measures, all the safety protocols, he was there agreeing with the governor, right there, smiling, happy as a lark. And then now he's concerned. See, Melissa say Hilo Medical is maxed out. Hilo Medical does mention it. They share that. They tell the public. Yeah, I'm not doing good with names tonight. I know. Yeah,
Not a girl, Morg.
yeah. You must be related to Dustin. I'm sorry, to Dr. Tyson. You guys are
Hey, but
killing me.
no, you know what's funny, right? Because like last night I had the Insight special on PBS Hawaii with all the Democratic gubernatorial candidates, but it's election year, and you don't hear much anything about uh, COVID-19. Like when
Yeah,
it's mentioned, well, no, when it gets mentioned, it's as in reference to this was then and so now, but you don't hear anything, especially when you get the public outcry for remember all these people who did what and this and that. But I've been watching a few things, and you rarely hear anything about why did you think or decide to do this then, but more importantly, so if it continues, what may you do now, or what might do differently, kind of. But you don't hear anything about, like last night when I was watching, I was trying to think, okay, we'll see if they say anything, right? Josh Green is on there. You know, you got Brother Kai and all this. So I was like, okay, what you can hear? Maybe we hear something federal level, state level. And there was nothing. It was basically a reference, as in like me telling, hey, you remember when you had all black facial hair back then, this and that. So you know now you like to comb your hair, right? It was just in passing and it had no substance as to what they're going. So I'm curious to see as we get closer and you get more debates if there's anything, but I freaking doubt there's anything going to come
Yeah,
up. It's
you're
going to
not
be
gonna.
avoided.
Yeah, because it's a taboo discussion, right? Because again, right, Josh was very successful in minimizing this so much that he has to stick to that story, and he sticks to that story. Well, remember, we went from the best in the country to the worst, even though his commercial said we were the best in the country. He's in a tough spot right now because he cannot contradict himself. So and that's why he rather not talk about it. Even though we have BA4, BA5, BA2.75 looming, and we don't know what's going to happen, he doesn't touch it. I believe that this is something that they probably all agreed they're not going to touch
Yeah.
because it's such a volatile subject. You can change voters' minds simply by saying the wrong thing about COVID because COVID is such a very strong emotional topic. So they're doing the politically safe thing, which is horse crap. And I watched it too. I couldn't believe how nice they were last night, how they loved each other. All of a sudden, they were so all great people when they were on Spotlight. They wanted to rip each other's throat out. All of a sudden, they regrouped. Now they all love each other. And I will say this one thing I was very disappointed. I'm going to upset a lot of viewers, possibly. I'm going to say it anyway. This was what I was disappointed about. It's a great segue into what I wanted to discuss as well about the drug treatment center. Is they asked the question about recreational marijuana, Tyson. And I honestly don't know your position. I respect everybody's position. But the question was, would you support legalizing recreational marijuana?
Yep.
Josh Green, Kai Kahele said yes. Kai went first. He said yes, and they asked him, "Would you like to say why?" He kind of made an answer, and Josh was very clear: revenues. We're gonna make money so we can fund the projects and the projects that we talked about all night. We can use that money. We can tax them at 30%. Like I'm thinking, guys, we are seeing our kids die right now. We are seeing drugs flying all over the place. And Vicky Cayetano said she wouldn't support it. She changed her response from the spotlight. Spotlight, she was adamantly no. Of course, she got the flack, right? She saw the comments, and everybody said, "You just lost my vote, Vicky, because I like smoke dope." So now she's, uh, I forget how she said it, but basically, with unless
With reserve.
yeah,
Yeah,
something
it was
like
no with reserve.
yeah, anybody that says yes with reservations or no with reservations,
Yeah.
that's an easy way out. At least I respect the other two for saying that they support it. I totally disagree. Recreational marijuana is not a good thing to do in Hawaii, but they're looking at the revenue that could be generated, right? So this is the logic. I'm gonna let you get addicted to drugs, and then the money that you spend to buy the drug and the tax that you pay, we will use to treat you when you're sick with addiction. That is the most stupidest logic I've ever heard. That's nonsense. And why would we want to bring in a new social beast? Now, again, Tyson, I have no idea how you feel about this, but I'm obviously biased because I've seen the damages of even marijuana. People say, oh, marijuana, they're all mellow, they still drive, they still, and you send a message to our kids that because it's legal, I forget, somebody said, oh yeah, over 21 though, they got to be 21 because the mind is still developing. In fact, it was Josh Green.
The
He said,
Josh Green.
yeah, because the mind is still developing, 19, 20 years old. So, okay, after it fully developed, then it's okay to go destroy your brain cells. Listen, guys, medical marijuana, I support 100%. Totally support. But if you understand how that medical marijuana, if you go to the doctor and say, I have chronic pain, Tyson, you could go today and say, I get chronic pain in my knee. Here you go. Here's your card. You can go buy dope. And I know I
Okay,
said, I
I'll
probably
be right back then.
I probably am upsetting a lot of people right now, but I think, my position has never changed all along. I think, the social impacts of legalizing any drug is is not worth the revenue that can be generated from the taxes. That's just how I feel. And yeah, I'm sure a lot of people. Michael Poai is on. Michael Rovin Poai running for mayor. Thank you for joining us tonight, Michael Rovin. I want to get you on the show, man. I want you to share your platform with our viewers running for mayor in Kauai. Um, yeah, I think it's a mistake. Yes, this is what I'll ask you, Tyson, because you're an analytical person. If you use the logic that recreational marijuana will generate revenue, why would prostitution, why should not be legalized? Why shouldn't we legalize prostitution? Prostitution is a victimless crime, right? Somebody wants to go
Right?
buy for, okay. I'm not saying I support that. What I'm saying is, what is the difference if you're looking at recreational marijuana legalization to generate revenue? Can you imagine how much money you would make if you legalized prostitution?
Prostitution, you
Yeah,
can make
but
a lot.
I bet if you asked that question last night, the three people would say no. I guarantee that three candidates would tell you, hell no. Well, why? What's the difference? When really, what is the difference? If you legalized prostitution, regulated it, made sure the girls are clean, whatever, what's the difference? Yeah, there really is no difference. But because the voters, I think there's a lot of voters in our state that want to see recreational marijuana legal. That's why they support it. I just don't see any other reason.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it's weird if a doctor would say no to legalize prostitution, right? Because they might be getting more business from all of that happening. But hey, I'll share you my opinion with legalized marijuana because I'm opposite of you. But it's funny because it is, and I should also state that I personally feel alcohol is way worse than marijuana. As I think way worse things happen from people drinking than or decisions made from smoking. And I did a term paper in college where I was able to research until of course this was 2099, right? And things have changed a lot because now that nationwide you get a lot more federal funding that goes into it. More just people in the backyard messing around with fertilizers going. But my whole thing is why legalize, especially here in our state. And I'm shocked that it hasn't yet. I understand it's got to go through legislation. It's not on the ballot, but it's for that extra revenue. Me, my personal thing that pisses me off all the time is when the state takes, they decide to cut a fund. The first fund is education.
mhm.
We're going to cut the education fund. Or, oh, we're going to tap into the hurricane fund. Who the hell is the only people to get hit by hurricanes? Us. But, I remember when Washington State and Colorado first legalized it, was that 2012? I think around there. And I remember Hawaii coming on saying, you know what, we're going to watch them for the next 4 years. We're going to see what happens with them with enforcement, regulations, taxing, all this, and then we can kind of make a decision. See, so you kind of thought around 2016 you might hear a little bit more. Nothing really came about. 2020, 2018, 2020, you started hearing a lot more. But I remember, I think it might actually been my dad at one of his last liquor conventions in Colorado, actually, where Colorado didn't even send their liquor division to the National Liquor Conference. They sent narcotics. Like, what the hell are we sending narcotics? And they brought their canine dogs. And first question is like, any states you guys want to take these home? And everybody, because we don't need them anymore because they're jumping on people who can carry it legally. But the next thing he talked about was the revenue and how, and I'm no way in hell I'm comparing Colorado to our state, right? Completely different infrastructures. But their revenue annually was, I believe, like 120 million from uh, their recreational marijuana sales. But what they used their money for was strictly roadways, highways, freeways, interstate, and all that, right? Now, obviously, we wouldn't have that type of concrete. But for me, looking at it, if we did have that additional external revenue coming in, now instead of cutting education budgets or taking away from the hurricane relief fund or the rainy day fund, which somehow they can use, well, we could use that additional money. Okay, now we can help out state parks and all these bathrooms that look like crap every time you go there, state roadways or whatever they want, right? Because we don't have to um, put all the money into one thing. Hawaii, as we can use the money for a lot of things, but that's one of the main reasons why. Before it's because our state needs additional money. We have no state lotto, we have no nothing else, and every time they cut from things that I think should never get touched, like education. So that's one of the main reasons because I think our state does need some type of additional revenue stream that we can get. And right now, we know there's a lot of public support. We just got to see what kind of comes about with all of that from our state watching all these other states. Because look, the entire West Coast is legal, right? You've been to Oregon, then California, you go Vegas. As soon as you step outside of the plane, literally, at the airport, you smelling nothing but the sweet sensimilla. You know what I mean? So you can just smell it all around. And I think that would be the bad thing here if it was. I wouldn't want to be having kids or just anybody in general walking around. The only thing you smell is marijuana going around because it's already bad enough when you got to smell cigarettes all over the place.
Yeah, and again, if money is the driving factor, then absolutely right. Yeah, because they think, I think when you talk about states like Oregon and Washington State, when you look at Vegas and you look at the data that those states, and that's a great example because when you look at the data, the amount of traffic accidents and the fatalities that you saw after the legalization of marijuana, recreational marijuana, you see the incredible spike. You see the incredible increase in incidents that occur with marijuana. Whether because marijuana is not, you don't get crazy stupid like a drunkard. The response times, the
Yeah,
those things are if affected. And yeah, you so you no, we'll pass it still. You cannot drive. You cannot smoke and drive. The fact of the matter is, follow those states. We said we would sit back and watch, and if in fact there were no increase in crime or accidents or fatalities, then yeah, it was something we would consider. But they, I know this for a fact because when this came up in the legislature 2 years ago, so I submitted major testimony utilizing the statistics that I got from those states, and I will tell you, it is not good. And I will tell you that those legislators that provided testimony to those states that said they wish they never supported the legalization of marijuana were plentiful because again, you if you justify legalizing recreational marijuana because of the revenue, no one can deny the fact that marijuana, and remember today, the marijuana of today, the content of THC in the marijuana of today is not the same as the marijuana when these legislators used to smoke dope, or some of them may still smoke. I don't know, but it's a whole different drug now. It's a whole. It's, you talk about a mutated drug. THC levels are upwards. Some of them 100%. You can go to a marijuana store in those states and buy 100% THC, which is very highly addictive. So there's a
yeah.
lot of things that the legislature better consider before they say, yeah, it'll bring in more revenue, but is it worth the social cost? And I think that's where I stand is, you got to look this thing through and make sure people. I see a lot of comments about alcohol. The fact that alcohol is legal, and their lobby is very strong. The fact that alcohol is legal shouldn't be a reason why you can legalize another vice, right?
Yeah.
I mean, my comment about prostitution stays. What about cocaine? What about cocaine? Um, why not just legalize cocaine and everything else because it'll generate a lot of revenue. I think that's all I'm saying is, we got to look at what the impact, and you get this information from the states that passed it, and then you follow the data, and that's all I'm saying. But that's a great segue because I know we got a little bit time left, and I wanted to make sure. I know some of you, if not all of you, were on the show Wednesday night. We talked about the drug treatment center. And I just wanted to make one thing real clear because the Garden Island came out with the story yesterday, and they talked about the county responded and said, hey, for the last 2 years, There's been a cloud. Grove Farm has placed a cloud of litigation, which scared people away, or didn't, stop people from wanting to participate. I just wanted to make one point. That land, it's been 5.5 years, 5.5 years, and in June of 2020, over 2 years ago, the county talked about the cloud of litigation from Grove Farm for the last 2 years. But it was over 2 years ago when the county came out publicly and said that they were no longer going to use that facility as a drug treatment center, and that they were going to transfer the building and the land over to the prosecutor's office for some teen programs and some prevention programs, and to work with victims and witnesses. That was 2 years ago, over 2 years ago. The fact of the matter is that the county failed to meet the requirement, the 2 year requirement to have that operation running over 2 years ago. And I just wanted to say this, that when I saw that Civil Beat article, and that was on June 7th of 2020, I called Grove Farm and I spoke to Warren Haruki personally, and I said, I was pissed off. Because remember now, I was there when we accepted the land, and I was there when we accepted, as a councilman, I was there to accept the land for the sole purpose of a drug treatment center. So when that hit the newspaper, when that hit Civil Beat, I called Warren and I was very angry. And I said, Warren, how dare you? How dare you guys change the use? And Warren told me, Mel, I just found out about that today. I just found out. Someone sent me the Civil Beat article. I just found out about it today. And I said, well, are you okay with that? He said, hell no. We gave that land to have a adolescent residential drug treatment center. We did not give that land to expand county offices and county programs. Next question to Warren was, so what? Are you going to sue? He said, I'm not going to sue. Grove Farm is not interested in suing. Grove Farm is only interested in one thing, and that is opening those doors for our kids. And for 2 years, nothing has been done. And the only reason Grove Farm, I spoke to Warren today, I wanted to talk to him before tonight's show, and I said, Warren, why didn't you guys file this thing earlier? And he said, because by suing the county, in Grove Farm's opinion, would just prolong the opening of the center. But it was only after the actions, when it was clear that the county was going to transfer that land to an outside entity, that left Grove Farm with no choice but to file. And while you can call it a lawsuit, it's really it's a civil action for the court to determine who actually owns the land, were the conditions of that deed restriction met. So I just wanted to clarify that the cloud of litigation was never there. The county determined that they were not going to use it for a facility 2 years ago, but the litigation discussions only occurred probably within the last 3 or 4 months, when it was clear that the county was going to give the land to someone else. I just want to clarify that, because I just want the public to understand that, Grove Farm is committed to open those doors, and we need to get behind this project as a village, as a community. And I'm sorry for those of you that are not on Kauai, but this is a big issue here on Kauai, and I thought it was a great segue, because we're talking about drugs, and we're talking about legalizing marijuana, we're talking about all of these things that are affecting our kids. And here on Kauai, we don't even have a facility, a residential facility for our kids. So it's kind of, for me, it's counter effective, that we would talk about legalizing, but we don't even have a facility here on Kauai. So I don't know, Tyson. I don't know what your thoughts on that are, bro.
No, dude, it's just crazy that we won't have a facility here for them, right? Whenever I hear about the treatment facility, what pops in my head is, what can come first? The new landfill, the expanded landfill, or the treatment facility? And I think we're going to be waiting freaking years for both of them. So it's, yeah, we've had that issue here, for decades, and yet we got no real treatment area here. We all know friends or family members who got affected with some crazy hardcore things, but they got no treatment. And then, you can try and do some certain therapies, and then next they're back out. And unfortunately, right, they go back home, families get fed up with them not wanting to get their own help, and then what they do, they kick them out of the house. Like, that's the best thing for these people that gotta try and recover somehow. So yeah, we sure as hell need a treatment, but it's unfortunate that the county, I can't even say dropped the ball on that one. It's something else. So
Yeah,
let's
it
hope
was.
that they are.
Well, I mean, I honestly believe the only way we can get this open is with the community. I said it on Wednesday night. Counties, and it's not just here. Counties across the country are not designed or intended to operate social services. The state may, but not counties. And this gift of this land really, set the direction. And again, Mayor Cavallo, it was his work with Grove Farm to get them to agree to give us that land, and that's prime land. And we need to focus our energies now. And you talk about the landfill, and I said this in one of my interviews that they called, the political interviews, and I said, they asked, what is your most important uh, issue? And I said, you cannot right now on Kauai. That's the two. Affordable housing has been an issue for decades, and that has to be worked on, obviously. Um, as homeless. But the two critical issues right now, because health and safety are involved, is the drug treatment center. We need to open that like yesterday, and the landfill, because there is not enough time left on that landfill right now, as of today, to site and build a new landfill. So in other words, what I'm saying is, by when Mana landfill fills up, there will be no place to take your trash. That is going to be an environmental health crisis. So, there's a lot of work to do, and but the drug treatment center, Tyson, I think everyone on Kauai. I don't think there's a soul on this island. Well, I guess there may be some, but the general public,
Yeah.
I don't think you will find someone that is not supportive of that facility being open.
Yeah, I was gonna say you'd be hard pressed to find a handful of people that say, yeah, that's a horrible idea. We don't need it, no. So
Yeah, yeah. So anyway,
yeah.
that took us right to the 801 point, Tyson. It's always awesome to have you on, man. I know the villagers love to have you on, and any thoughts before anything? Football, baseball, wrestling.
No.
What
Well,
what you
my
what,
Red Sox caught cracks again from the Yankees. So to all you Yankee fans, whatever's regular season, it don't matter. And you're playing against our double A pitching staff. But sports. Oh, I'm telling you, we're gonna have, especially when it gets close to the football season, we're gonna have one of these Friday nights where it's just all sports related. So we might only have 10 people watching, but it's gonna be good. No, I got nothing real specific or in particular to talk about. It's we still live on this beautiful green rock, and I'm gonna keep doing what we can do. But
Well, we're going. There's been a request for you to do a Governor Ige impression. So what we're gonna do is, I'm gonna let everybody, just tell everybody, we appreciate you guys. We love you guys. Thanks for showing up. We are gonna let Dr. Tyson Moises close out the show, by saying our mahalos. We're gonna ask Ige to do it. But before he comes on, I just want to say, hey, to all of you on the village, thank you all for joining us tonight. Thank you for being engaged. Thank you for being uh, supportive. And like Tyson said, it's a great place. We live in the best place on the planet. We got the best people. But it's going to take us. That old cliche, it takes a village. It is going to take our village. And I'm not just talking about this show village, the village of our state, to come together to help not only get through COVID, but for all the issues that we face every single day. You heard a few of them tonight. We plan to have more shows focusing on issues across the state. If you guys have an issue in your island that you want to discuss, you have the subject matter experts. We'd love to have them on. So thank you all, guys. We love you guys. Have a great weekend, and we're gonna have Governor Ige close us out.
Okay, everybody. I just want you to say be safe out there. All right. And
You know, it's election year, so if you think you can vote for someone who might be able to do a little bit better job than I did, which is impossible because I love being your governor, you you do what you need to do. Okay? Yeah, that's about it.
All right, guys. We'll see you guys later. Take care. Love you guys. God
All right,
bless.
y'all.